Welcome to the Crazy Wisdom podcast. I've got Youssef Tharwat here, and he is building .git for context and is the founder of NoodlBox. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So, what is context? Not only in the programming sense, but like, what is context in general? How do we grapple with this giant thing of context?
I would say it's basically information that
Interesting.
uh, you need to basically be able to reason about something correctly.
Mm, mm, interesting. I have this philosopher that I like to study. His name is David Hawkins. He talks a lot about content versus context.
Yeah.
And what I got from that, basically, what you just said is that there's a lot of information everywhere. You know, there's information coming into our senses right now. There's information in this little box in front of me that's allowing us to talk and everything like that. But then the context is like the whole universe and how we're connected inside of this whole universe to this thing that we're doing, right? And that context is sort of like hard to understand, hard to model, hard to see, but really, really important in ways that we don't understand. And this is really important for AI, right? Because if it doesn't have the right context, then you're going to get a whole bunch of spaghetti code. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes. The more relevant the piece of information you're given at a point in time, the higher quality context you've acquired or you have at
Mm.
that point.
So the more relevant piece of information, yeah. So you need to and getting relevance is something I've been thinking a lot about over these past few days because I've been in a doom loop. I was in a doom loop in the earlier part of the week. I'm non-technical. I guess I could say that I'm technical now, but so I'm trying to build this application that copies an application that I use a lot, but that application that I use a lot is not up to my standards for what I want. And so I've been thinking this. I've had this idea for 2 years, and I was like, okay, we're going to do it now. A week ago, and I got into a doom loop. And since Opus 4.5 in the Claude code has come out, I've not got into doom loops. I think
Yeah.
the reason why I was in doom loop is that I had haiku model chosen rather than the Opus 4.5. So I think that's actually why. Uh, but um, but so and so relevant. If so, this idea of like relevance, because I have it build this giant code base, and then none of it's relevant to me because I think for you, you're probably a developer. You know how to get into the weeds of the programmers and the programs and the code and everything like that. None of that stuff is relevant to me, except when I run into a barrier, and then it becomes super relevant, and then I need to jump up my understanding of what's going on. And so, yeah, this idea of relevance, we could talk about the product here too. Is like what
Yeah.
is it's Git. Can you explain more what the product does?
Yes. So basically what the product does is it takes your files, it takes your code base, and it processes these files into a structure, into a knowledge graph, which basically gives tools to your agent to traverse information or to
Hmm.
traverse context
Hmm.
semantically, not
Hmm.
by files, not by keywords, but actually travel through meaning, through concepts.
Very cool. And
And
oh, interesting. So you built this knowledge graph to enable semantic understanding. And this is really important. I've been studying a lot about knowledge graphs and ontologies and controlled vocabularies and taxonomies and all these different things because that I think is what is missing with AI which is like facts, right? Like it has no self understanding. It can't view itself as a being because it's not a being, and so it can't like traverse space time and do all these things that we can do naturally, right? And so ontologies and knowledge graphs basically bound it. Is that true? Is that what you did? You've bounded it semantically?
exactly. And the really cool thing is with code, or when you're working with a particular type of data that you already know, these boundaries already exist in the code. So you know that this thing calls that thing and this thing imports that. And these relationships exist. So that's why I don't need an LLM to label or construct the knowledge graph as I'm building it. I'm just leveraging the stuff that's already there. I'm just
Oh,
modeling
interesting.
it.
Oh, interesting. So you've taken the natural boundaries in the code that exist semantically. What does it mean
Yes.
to exist semantically?
So, for example, you know that this function invokes that
Hmm.
other function,
Right.
and this function exists over, for example, in this file. So then you just model these edges that are already there, and then once you have so now you have a full multi-dimensional graph of representation of this code base. Then you give the tools to your agent to search, to find things.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
So did you hear about Claude recently released? So the Claude memory thing feels really relevant here because Claude has this relevant or this memory in it now, which is able to traverse things. And I've wondered whether they're using knowledge graphs, and I've done a deep research on it. But you could, as we're talking about, the things hallucinate, so I can't trust it. And I know that OpenAI is hiring knowledge architects, and so it feels like so they're building this memory product, and then what do you think about that? What do you think about what's going on there in terms of the future of that?
Um, I mean, I think what they're trying to do is, I mean, honestly, I haven't looked into cloud memory, but um, a lot of the companies who do try to tackle memory, they tackle things from an embedding space perspective, from a more of a
Yeah.
loose, non-tied uh, 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 um, approach. Um, I think in order to really construct meaning and relationships in code, you you basically need to have a compiler. You need to see what actually compilers do and use that to construct real edges,
Mm.
real relationships, because otherwise
Mm.
you're sort of trying to use the LLM or the models as a compiler, but then they break down those things into tokens, and then it isn't really the real thing. It's sort of a loose concept. Um, so you don't get the deterministic uh, search that you would expect, and I mean, software development historically has always relied on deterministic tooling, which is why I think or doubt that this memory thing would be really something that is highly adopted or relied on
For
in that.
deterministic, yeah, yeah, this is the whole thing of it. And I actually talked with somebody. They weren't in Germany. They were down in Zurich, and they built this robotics company. And I released this Marson. His name is Marson. They're building robotics, and he was the first one who clued me really into. In order for any really important work, which includes some software, you need to have 100% reliability, and this is why we have determinism, so that you know where you're going to get. And the probabilistic are really interesting. It's a new thing, and a lot of people confuse it. They're confusing it less and less because they get into so many painful doom loops, as I get into, of probabilistic. It's like great. It is so good that it will hallucinate and make up stuff because it gives me new ideas about how to do things. But when I wanted
Yeah.
100%, I'm not going to use it in a hospital. I'm not going to use it in an industrial robotics center, like where lives are at stake, or in lawyer where $100 billion is at stake, something like that. And I think you're right. I think, and this is, I'm trying to build an ontology based on this application that I'm building in order to actually I've got a memory application called Anki. That's what I got into the doom loop developing because I want to do other things with it. And so I'm trying to build an ontology into that, and get a controlled vocabulary and get everything like that. And so I researched this question of what will an ontology do for me that a semantic embedding or an embedding structure won't do. And the embedding structure can go and search probabilistically, so it can bring up a bunch of different things, but it loses what you're talking about how to bound it. Interesting. Maybe I could, yeah, interesting. What's the business model for you? Is it is it something that I could hook into an API to provide this type of thing for me, or how do the users use it?
So it's a CLI tool you would install. You would do just like how you do Git init, you would do Noodle init.
Cool.
It creates an index locally for you. Your knowledge graph is already embedded. Your MCP is already running.
Whoa.
Your agent just consumes it right away.
Oh, interesting. So it's a layer. Oh, it's almost like competitive with Git itself. Are you replacing Git?
Not really replacing. I think it's the next gen built on top of
Yeah.
Git.
Oh, interesting. Brilliant. Uh, that'll take me a while to understand. So why a knowledge graph in that space? Why inside of Git do you need a knowledge graph?
So I want to make context a portable,
Mm,
versionable, searchable artifact. I want to make it an artifact that goes with your repo where just like how you would make commits and push to GitHub.
that's so cool.
Um,
So you can share it with people.
you can share it with people, and you can also see snapshots of knowledge diffs across time. So each commit gets a snapshot, and then you have deltas of each of the knowledge graphs. So you can actually derive context from that, basically what changed on a conceptual level. Um, yeah, so that's the idea.
Yeah, that's so cool. What are your next steps for the business side? We've talked about the technical side, but this seems like something I want to get out to people. And I actually posted it to our AI Whisperers group, which is how we found each other through my
Mhm.
friend who introduced you to us. What are you doing for the business? What's next?
Yeah, so I wanna launch a so first of all I wanna launch the format .mbx, and then I will also launch something like global index of packages,
Mm,
just like context 7,
yep.
but with Noodle when you do init, I automatically see your dependencies. I already have pre-indexed knowledge graphs for each of these packages, and then I include that into your context. Um, this is how your agent doesn't mistake if you're using React. It uses like an older API of something, and then you figure out, oh, that's actually like an older version. I have to check, what's the recent way of doing this in React. So then that becomes out of the box available. This is how I'm gonna monetize.
Yeah.
So you can use Noodle for free if you do want to have that dependencies pre-indexing option enabled. You get like 500 requests a month for free, but then if you want more, you would extend. You would get a pro plan.
Very cool. So, are you familiar with Urbit? Have you ever heard of Urbit before?
No.
So Urbit was an attempt. It's got a controversial figure who created it, who's now controversial for very different reasons in political philosophy and other things. Because he built both a political philosophy. His name is Curtis Yarvin. He's got a political philosophy called the Patchwork Age, which is really controversial. We don't have to go into that. But he also built this thing called Urbit in the early 2000s, and Urbit is an attempt to get to turn Unix from this single problem thing or a single player operating system, because he says that Unix was just patchwork together over 20 or 30 years and just basically just isn't a very good thing for this networking thing that has been built into it with ICP and the internet and stuff like that. So he created a whole entire operating system where we can do multiplayer, peer-to-peer, like BitTorrent operating system. Got funding in like 2007, built this community of people who are like treat this thing as a religion, I never got that far, and it's still going and stuff, but it had so many problems. So I never got that far, but I interviewed basically everyone in this realm because it got me really interested in the history of personal computing and everything. And so one of the teams that was building this about 2 or 3 years ago, on top of Urbit, their main idea was exactly what you just said. They're now gone off to do other things, basically, but it's like the dependency issue. How do you deal with all of these dependencies that npm installs on your machine, and how do you get all these little guys to like do something and not break because of those dependencies? So you actually have a solution for that problem.
Yes, yes. So exactly. So I'm gonna pre-index. I'm gonna go on npm. I'm gonna pre-index the most popular repos. And because of the versioned knowledge graph, I have per commit references.
Cool.
And then once you do noodle init, I'm using like a federated approach where I pull from S3 buckets the stored knowledge
Wow.
graphs. They get installed into your basically in your cache in NoodlBox cache, just like npm or pnpm does. Um, and then that extends your current knowledge graph basically into these other knowledge graphs. And then you've got your agent, when they were to be searched for something, they already know the exact APIs of that dependency, what it expects, what it needs.
Man, that's so cool. So you've got a knowledge graph. Were you working in knowledge graphs before this? And I've done a lot of interviews on the people in the. I just got a great framework for it, which is I was in knowledge management, so I was a director of knowledge management. My main thing is like personal knowledge management. That's why I'm building this Anki thing. There's also machine learning engineers, which it sounds like you might be in that field, and then there's knowledge architects. And so the machine learning engineers and the knowledge architects, they sort of like battle each other about whether knowledge graphs and ontologies actually matter, because the machine learning guys don't like it. And as Claude Code we just discussed, they're not doing what you're talking about. They're doing a brute force. Their religion is basically like compute, compute,
Yeah,
compute. All we need is compute.
yeah,
All we need is agents. Just throw the agents at them. Uh,
yeah.
and and so were you already in this machine learning field and then got into the knowledge graphs, or no?
To be honest, neither. I was just a software engineer. I was just a software engineer that wanted to solve the context problem
Yeah.
for myself.
Cool.
And I just found myself doing all this.
Getting into knowledge graphs. And so did you had to build an ontology for all these things, or did you automate that part?
Yeah, it's exactly. So it's automated, and the thing is, I didn't really need to come up with any new words or terminology. It's organically found in the code.
Interesting. Whoa. So it already exists semantically
Yeah,
because code
the
is semantic. Interesting.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the really what the secret kind of power comes from that part.
Man, that's so cool. Okay. So you've got this thing. What have you learned? If you want to go into philosophy, what have you learned philosophically about knowledge as you've built out this thing? Or I guess because it's code. Well, is code knowledge? Like, what are you learning as you're building this thing about the way knowledge and reality works?
It's honestly it's really crazy. But I've I've learned that LLMs have and agents have very similar
Mm.
limitations like humans do. Um, which is why I think, and I wrote this on my landing page, larger context windows don't scale
Mm.
because quality degrades the more you put in, and the more, I mean, you have cognitive load and cognitive capacity as a human. You can't treat that as a tool to solve these kind of problems, which reinforces my idea or my bet that this is probably the way, the most optimal way of searching through information is to semantically separate it.
Interesting. Okay, so and it's so interesting because in it is I love interviewing people outside of San Francisco because if you go to San Francisco, yeah, that's great business. They figured out the transformer. They're doing all this cool stuff, but Google is not paying attention to what you just said because they have this giant compute. So they're the winners in this compute race, and so they just have this giant context window that completely dominates. Like Claude figured out some great ways to do context as well, and ChatGPT was a little bit slower on that. And so, but Google has this giant context window, but it's kind of not really that great when you interact with it from a knowledge standpoint, because you give it this thing, it gets better over time. But they're probably relying on they're relying on this giant context window of just like, oh, it'll figure it out. And so this is something that has to be built outside of San Francisco. This is why China has so many interesting things going on, is because they just have to think about it. They do think about efficiency in a very different way than Silicon Valley. Um, what's your take there? What is it like it being in where you are and just seeing this thing come out, and then you're using this thing in a different way that these guys don't seem to be thinking about it in the same way?
I'm super excited and I'm super bullish on this.
Yep.
And I think one thing that really helped me is I've really self-constrained myself when I was designing this. I assume that my users won't trust me to share their code with me, so this has to work on a commercial grade computer, all local. So this got me actually to rebuild this whole thing like maybe 3 or 4 times in multiple languages.
What did you learn about those languages as you went? Like, why? What were the problems with those languages?
So initially, I started building this in TypeScript and building an Electron app, and I was building a code to documentation tool. I wanted to reverse engineer that. But then I realized that's probably not the right problem given people are not going to read documentation anymore. They're just going to pipe it to the agent.
Yeah.
And then I started to explore how can I solve this with maybe embeddings, and how can I model the graph in a certain way, cluster it, generate embeddings. And then I realized sometimes, oh, I can't use embeddings too much because it's going to rely. I need to deploy it to the cloud, and people again won't really trust me with that. It's too expensive. So then I went into Rust, and then I learned that with Rust I have so much more advantages. It's so much faster. I can compile code so much faster. The tooling really helped me in Rust, the ecosystem. So I kept moving from one part to another. Mostly because I wasn't really happy or satisfied with the end results.
uh,
Yeah.
and then so Rust is really interesting because I am doing a lot of things like this. I'll show you here. I vibe coding tools like this, which is a 4-field microphone array that I got from China with a little speaker.
Oh, very cool.
And it's got an ESP32 on it. And then I got this guy who is a mesh network, ESP32 with a long range antenna, mesh tastic. And so,
Super cool.
So I've run into problems on this guy. This guy, it's C++. And a lot of programmers tell me the LLM will never be able to write C++. I've started to doubt that since they've told me that. But they're like, you should start doing it in Rust. And it seems like a lot of other people are thinking about Rust as this kind of thing. And so that goes back to your compiling comment, right? Like there's something about Rust. Do you think? I guess Rust is going to win big time in this coding world, right?
I think so. And it's again another bet I've made to write most of my code in Rust, mainly because the compiler is very, very picky because it's a very explicit language. So that in itself is a feedback loop to the LLM
Oh, interesting.
on the subtle stuff.
That C++ would have gotten wrong, right?
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. Okay, that's really cool.
So that makes it a really good candidate for programming with AI and agents, because it's
Mm.
always complaining and it's always telling it what to do
At this low level, so it's always complaining. It's always giving
at this low
feedback
level.
at the low level of
Exactly.
the compiler. Okay, so should I just start writing everything in Rust? Does the LLM write in Rust? Can it
Yeah,
do?
yeah, yeah, it
Okay,
does.
interesting. So I'm just gonna start vibe coding in Rust then. Okay, cool.
Try
Um,
it out. Yeah.
yeah, what do you think would be the? How have LLMs actually changed your personal coding thing? Are you in what Claude code or Anthropic is saying? Like all the Anthropic engineers are not writing any code; they're at 100%. Like let it write it, I'll review it, and everything like that. Are you in that place now, basically?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I am there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm designing stuff. I'm thinking about concepts.
Nice.
I'm letting it expand that into actual implementation plans. I'm reviewing, but actual hands-on stuff, I think I'm doing that way, way, way less now. Um,
Are you doing
but I
Git
would
work?
say,
Sorry,
yeah,
go for
I am.
it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I am using work trees. I would say, with the help of agents and now Opus 4.5, it really pushed the boundaries of what I could have been able to do before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I mean I've designed almost like a compiler front end for the
What
product
is that?
fully. It basically means, because a compiler consists of two parts. There's a backend and a front end of a compiler.
Oh, interesting.
Um, and basically what I had to build out myself is half of it. Which would be something, along the lines of constructing abstract syntax trees, creating symbol tables. Um, I'm stitching basically everything together by hand. Um, on multiple languages. Uh, so yeah, I don't think I would have had the time, or even like it wouldn't have been feasible to build a product on my own that can do that in the past. So it's really opening up a lot of stuff for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, for you as an engineer, it's like made you much more efficient. You can still do things. For me, it's gone from a 0 to 1 situation where it's like I can do things that I would have never ever been able to do. I mean, outside of going and working in a software organization to figure out how people actually do stuff. So
Exactly.
this part about the half of the compiler is really interesting. A front end for a compiler makes me think about Claude's acquisition of Bun recently, because they're doing something at runtime. Yeah, what do you think of that?
Yes. Yeah, that was very suspicious when I saw that, because I always thought to myself that one big limitation Anthropic and a lot of companies have made is the tech stack they chose. It inherently limits what they can do. And then when they made the Bun acquisition, and I know my eyebrow went up.
I think everyone did. Yeah, yeah. Everyone who's using these things, the Claude code, it's just
I was
crazy.
like, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They definitely need, even, I mean, if they go down the graph direction,
yeah.
it probably would make sense. And the Bun acquisition would enable them to do that. And even if they don't, it definitely makes their agents a lot faster and execute processes and
Mhm.
different tasks a lot faster.
Now, is your product open source?
It's not, but I'll definitely make the format open source.
Let me tell you why I was going into that is because Anthropic is not open source, and then there's the open source of questions of LLMs, which is they're not open source, they're open weights. So you can't really say that an LLM can be open source. It can be open weights or not. And so you got this, as you know, but maybe listeners don't know, that probably do. They've been listening to me yap for these last years, that China is, open weights, that they're going full down that path. And so like Claude Anthropic is a beast now. They're definitely number two rather than OpenAI being number two after Google. So like OpenAI, I would put them at number three now, and so Claude's there at number two, and they're just like going at it like crazy. They acquired Bun, which both of us kind of recognize as a place into this world of building a whole new operating system, or it's building a agentic layer on a whole new operating system. But they aren't open source, and that key thing for me personally for my local LLMs. Sounds like you already built a lot of this into your architecture, but for me, as soon as a equivalent for current state of Opus 4.5 is available on open source in a way that I completely control on my computer, I'm getting off of Claude. Like there's and
Yeah,
I think that a lot of other people will think that way. A lot of intelligent and thoughtful people will not trust Claude because you can't trust any of them. The big tech companies, they're all
yeah,
going for a certain thing, which is at variance with my interest. It's not a mainstream thing, but I do think it's mainstream within programmers.
yeah,
So like an open source competition where you're playing sounds like an interesting idea. I don't know. What do you think?
definitely. Definitely. I mean, if I'm somebody who wants to uh, create a convention, create a
Yeah.
format that is open and usable to everybody, I definitely need to be going down that path. I think it's might be a little bit early. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just also figuring out the monetization and business model and all that. Um, but definitely something that is probably might happen.
Mm.
And to add to that, I mean, you saw on X probably how people are very upset about Claude banning open code usage.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think because actually the tools I give agents actually make them perform better.
Oh,
What I'm trying to do right now is boost
yeah,
the
interesting.
GLM model to
Yes.
be as good as
Perfect.
Opus
Yeah.
and prove that with the benchmark using open code. Um, I think that'll make a lot of people happy.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get at right there. Is like that. That's what
Yeah.
I need. That's what I need right now. Is so I'm currently rate limited on my Claude chatbot, and I have Opus in another account, which I won't go into. But essentially, I'm not rate limited on my Claude Code, but I am rate limited on my chatbot, and I am rate limited. And then so I'm like, and they're very non-transparent about it either. Too, they're just like, I'm paying them $20 a month. They say, "Oh, you're about to run out," and I know it's they're gaming their intelligence, which is why I'm talking about like it's not in my interest to go with them because they're trying to do machine persuasion on me in a much
Yep.
more intelligent way than the Facebook algorithms, to try to get me to upsell me at my most vulnerable times when I'm in the middle of a deep work session where I'm trying to figure something out. They hit me with this thing, and I'm like, I don't like that. I have never liked that, and I think it's like our only source of male vitality anymore is to keep a lid on all of these adversarial algorithms that are trying to make us spend money or get on a subscription and like stay on the subscription, like all these things, like that's how we can kind of like maintain our sovereignty. And so and now I've been switching to Google. So I just quit my OpenAI subscription. So I switched to Google as soon as they try to upsell me. And then Google started to upsell me, and so they're
Yeah.
everybody's clamping down. I think they're starting to like not go with the free AI. Everyone, so that seems to be ending. I was immediately, once this happened to me 2 days ago, I was like, okay, GLM 4.7 or whatever. I think it's time to try that. Maybe I should start going
Yeah.
it. Can I already use your thing but only inside the terminal, right? How does endpoints work?
No.
Mhm.
No. You can use it. You can use it with with any agent that has MCP enabled, like pretty much all of them.
Oh, cool.
Uh, you just, I mean, I can send you an invite. I'm more than happy to send you an invite. Um, your code stays locally. You just do, you actually just install it, and then it should work right away.
Cool.
No
And
inference. It's whatever
yeah,
with whatever you're working on. Yeah.
but so you're trying to get GLM with the tools to go do things. How does that work for the inference that specifically thing? Do I need to find an inference provider?
Yes. So, mm, so let's say you got your there's Cebras. They have a coding
Mhm.
plan with GLM, and you could then use open code with your subscription. Um, and yeah, and then
Cool.
just use the MCP.
Okay, cool. So I use it within open code. Get Cerebrus to give me the inference for GLM, connect all those pieces together. Okay, I'm really excited about seeing whether I can already do it, whether I can get off of the dependency. Yeah. What do you think about dependencies in general? Where do you think we're headed in the next 1 to 5 years? Like these just giants who are just so like just moving at the speed of light, basically, and it doesn't seem like they're going to stop anymore.
To be honest, it's extremely hard to tell. But one thing I know for sure is everybody's feeling like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're
Too
being
much data.
choked. They're being
Yeah,
handcuffed,
yeah,
and and everybody's looking for
yeah,
something, their freedom in some
yeah,
sense. Yes. They're all competing. Anthropic has to really watch out because their reputation took a big hit recently. Um, I don't know if solutions like Cursor and everybody who's building agents are able to sustain, given that, when you don't really have the models, it's quite hard to be able to offer a good value for money unless
yeah.
your value is UX and or being anti-gravity and catering more for the guys who don't want to get into the terminal. Um, but for the guys who are coding,
Yeah.
who wouldn't really care, yeah, you really need to own the models.
Yeah.
um,
When does that
yeah.
happen? Do you think that ever happens? That are they just going to continue advancing at this light speed? I don't see that they're going to continue at this light speed because I think we're running into fundamental problems of the models themselves. I don't think they're able to train uh, Opus 5 in the same way the jump from 3 to 4, and definitely not those early jumps. I think those are out of the picture now. I think pre-training is basically just how much RLFH data they can create. Now Claude can create a lot of that because they've got coding people and giving the code to these models to train them better. So they're out of that bottleneck. Google, of course, doesn't have data bottlenecks, but there are some really important data bottlenecks. And so I just think they are going to get much better at coding. I think Claude is going to get much better at coding, but then I don't know. I don't think that it's gonna like. I
It's gonna
think
keep
there are
going
other.
this way.
Yeah. There's got to be a moment, right? Unless we're in the singularity. And that's the crazy part about the San Francisco crew because they all believe as their religion that we are headed for it. It's going to happen. And Dario just went to Davos and is like, yeah, this is all happening in like 6 to 12 months. They're going to automate not only code, they're going to automate research as well, and
Mm,
computer science research. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, what do you think there?
I I I mean, if they really need to change something fundamentally the way,
What do you
unless you're just gonna keep brute forcing extremely.
think?
Um
Which I mean, they're paying for. They're spending hundreds of billions of dollars to build new data centers to brute force, right? But what if China, or what if somebody
Yeah,
like you just basically comes in and says new architecture, like it's over?
exactly. exactly. I think
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
the
interesting.
the the thing that's about to happen or should happen.
Yeah, and let's go into this because there's two paths basically. There's the singularity
Yeah.
path, which is just like total domination by the foundational models who just continue to speed up. And why would you ever use any other model besides a high compute with $100 billion data center? Versus the path of hundreds of millions. No, is it hundreds of millions? Like tens of millions really, really autistic developers who really value sovereignty, who then just create all these new pathways for better architectures, local LLMs, open source. Like, so those are the two pathways we got going on. Both of them are like it's hard to choose, right? Because like based on their marketing and based on Dario going into Davos saying that, it's like they've been able to they buy Bun, they do all these other things that are just like okay, well they're just going to continue to do those things but then I
Yeah.
never discount these disagreeable autistic engineers. Like I think that they're not going to take the path basically.
And, and not just that, but also like the rest of the world. Like, guys, come on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
nobody. If the only way to make it possible and scalable is $200 and $300 plans,
Yes, interesting.
like that, that's not.
Yeah,
That's just a bunch of people, a fraction of the world that
who can afford it? Yeah,
can
interesting.
can make that happen. Yeah. um, which is why something has to fundamentally change somewhere. Yeah,
That's really interesting because I was expecting Google to continue on with the free plan for a lot longer, but based on my experience this week, that they're not doing that. They're starting to like it's time to make money, and the whole rest of the world is like they're going to find solutions. I'm here in Argentina, and Argentina is has some really tough economic challenges, and so a lot of the people here, like it
yeah,
was great once anti gravity came because all of a sudden I could show people how to do this stuff for free inside of a browser and get people websites immediately, get them to aware that they can do this for free. But now Google's starting to clamp down. And I wonder why they're clamping down. I wonder how much of it is investor pressure to be like, okay, we just invested,
mm,
like 500 billion over the past couple of years or some insane amount of money. It's time to make some money because the data centers are also a iffy
yeah,
play. It's really interesting what'll happen. But I don't think I
yeah,
wouldn't bet against them. I wouldn't bet against the rest of the world to say that they're going to make these free options, right?
for sure. I wouldn't bet against the whole world. I mean, even you would think it's just maybe it's a much larger pool than you think. Like
Yeah,
even in Southern Europe, it's I mean here in Europe it's just Germany, France, Netherlands, where companies would have cloud subscriptions as a normal thing.
yeah, interesting.
In other places in Europe, it's not even that the case. Um, yeah. And I mean, I definitely think China would also play a really big role in making that happen.
Yeah, China is definitely they're not stopping, and their specific goal is to strategically undercut the big tech companies to offer this stuff for free. So there's like the China's definitely not stopping, like GLM. Well, let's go into that. Sounds like you might have a good understanding of what is the current state. Is DeepSeek still a player?
To be honest, I think they're used less and less.
Yeah,
I would say when it comes to Chinese models, the ones that I've seen used more and more are like the coding ones, like GLM,
yeah.
and the tiny ones like Qwen.
Oh, interesting.
Um, so Qwen 3, for I think they have the best um, tiny models, whether it's embedding or text generation. They're doing really well there.
Oh, yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, for the great game. This is a new great game. It's like the big tech versus the rest of the world. And the big tech has the singularity. They're all aiming for the singularity. But they have so many fundamental, and I know them. I'm from them. I like that they have so many fundamental misunderstandings about reality. We all do, right? There's no, but theirs ones are really important because they've got hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into this, and the entire U.S. government now allied with them. So their delusions are a little bit more intense than the rest of us. Man, it's so crazy. Um, but I'm optimistic that that it's going to be the like that it won't be that world, because we saw what that world was in 2020 with Facebook making these giant decisions about the nature of reality, and like I don't think anything's fundamentally changed in those organizations, and the same thing with Google. And so I think it's going to get more. After this conversation, I don't think I'm going to bet against the rest of the world. But how to actually make the bets for that world is interesting, because there might be like a gap. There might be like a 3 to 6 month gap over the next couple months where it's like we don't have the new thing built, but the old thing has shut its doors and gatekeeped. Do you think that that's going to happen?
I'd say it's a 50-50 chance. On one side, things start to feel like they're slowing down, but at the same time, stuff comes out also. And I mean, we've learned in the last few years, crazy shit can happen anytime.
Yeah. Black swans. Black swans.
Yes. I mean, I would say, like throughout this whole journey of building this tool, I think one thing that really kept me focused is just really following what makes sense. Like this is a problem. Obviously, it's not sustainable. Obviously, brute force isn't optimal. It's painful because I feel it. A lot of people also feel the same way. And I'm just trying to I'm just trying to use those things to guide me build the solution
practical.
Or design it.
What were the moments where if you were like a funded company with $100 million in the bank, what would be the different decisions that you made along the way?
I would brute force it. So so I think what I would have done. So Microsoft, they had the first proper practical implementation of a knowledge graph, which was the GraphRag repo.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And then I looked at it and I was like, wait, so the way you construct this is you chunk thousands of documents, and then you use these very brittle prompts to construct this, to label and to summarize and to create this structure. Is this really what it is? And if you were to do this, let's say you want to start a product, and if you were to do this for your clients, the cost of creating that per org is crazy.
It's probably good
so
for them.
If I had the money,
Microsoft's probably thinking, oh, if you were to do this for clients, it would be crazy because it would make them a lot of money. They're thinking of like, oh, we can go sell this to Galicia Bank in Argentina, and then Galicia will pay us a lot of money. So that's probably why they were thinking of that. Oh man, but keep on going. I feel like you're
and because and because I'm I'm an engineer trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm bound by by certain ways of thinking. Yes. And it just didn't feel like the right or sustainable thing to do.
Because there's this goal of efficiency, and this is the strangest part that's going right back to where we were just talking about, of like we've got this strange economy that is giant companies that can afford to do something like you talked about, because they have distribution among all of the other giant companies. And like the giant companies, to play in that field, it's possible. I know people who are doing it, and you go into these organizations and you deal with things that are not not the reality that we experience as people who are like indie people, right? It's like a reality that's like very different, and it's almost like what kings would deal with in the 900s, or you have the royals and they have the kings, and there's all these like great games of like political and all these things. They just don't pay attention to the things because they're spending, they might give you a $20 million contract or something like that, and that $20 million contract that goes wrong, the guy who did it gets fired, and like that creates this world that's really strange. I am like, it seems like that world is really powerful right now, but it also seems like it's not actually, because it feels like, particularly with what we've been talking about, it's like I have this ability to be efficient. I would never go into an organization like that and get paid a full-time salary and have them own my time, because they will use that time so inefficiently and I will have to play these
Mm-hmm.
games that are not really relevant to actually getting job done, but totally other things. And it's just like, I know I'm not alone. Like, I know a lot of people don't want to play that game anymore. It's a really dumb game. And for like, so I don't think that world's going to stay around a lot longer. I mean, it will, because the regulations ensure it. So the like, if you're in a pharma company, or if you're in a company in healthcare with this giant HIPAA compliance and all these different things, yeah, those jobs are going to be protected for a while. But it's like, they're not going to recruit the best people going forward. Like Zoomers who have been incels like for a really long time. Once the Boomers die and the Gen X, it's like the Zoomers are not going to do well in those organizations, because it's a whole other topic. What do you think? Any response there?
Um, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I generally also think, even here in Germany, Germany has
Yeah,
been
interesting.
always known as the company, as the country that is most resistant to adopting stuff,
Mm,
new tech, new changing ways of doing things. And you start to see, given geopolitical and economical world affairs, that I feel like I see things changing. They're forced to change, because
mm,
you can't maintain that level of, like, you can't ignore it anymore. It's just gonna force you to do things differently. And yeah, that's happening, and it's quite strange, to be honest, to experience and see happen in Germany.
yeah, and that's a whole other thing about the sort of rift between the United States and Europe. I've been doing deep dives on all the regulations going on in Europe. And like, I did this robotics interview, and that interview was really interesting because it taught me of why regulation is important in a lot of ways, because you're dealing with like industrial things, and like China doesn't have that regulation, so they're probably able to move much faster with the robotics stuff. But also people die, and it's like, it's like China doesn't really care about those things happening. And so I've been cluing into a lot of the stuff that's going on in Europe, because the knowledge graph that you're talking about, like that, if you can get deterministic harnesses on these probabilistic monsters, like if you can do that, that will essentially allow them to be used in places like industry, and like go through the regulation and like do all these things that are, although the regulators themselves might not like that, because then it will remove a lot of jobs, which is going to be really, really important. Yeah, we got about 5 minutes left.
Exactly.
What else did we not talk about that do you think we should have talked about?
Um, hmm. I mean, I'm generally excited about NoodlBox. Excited about the future. Um, yeah. Uh,
What are your next
Nothing
steps?
much to say.
What's next
Uh,
for? Mhm.
what's next? So I'm working with users now. It's growing. I would say I might have an open beta, so product could be installed maybe somewhere in February. I'm hoping to basically make this make this convention, make this tool
Mm,
as adopted,
standard.
adopted by everybody, a standard, exactly. Um, because I'm mostly doing like the way GitHub monetizes. You can
Mhm.
create as many repos as you want. You can, I mean, GitHub didn't build Git, but um, you can use Git as much as you want to. But then, yeah, I want to make this possible for everybody.
Very cool. I would love to get the AI Whispers as some beta testers if you're interested in that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And how can if they do want to join a beta, do you have a list that people can come to on the page?
Of course, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Just visit noodlebox.io. Um, there's an input field there. Put your email. Noodle without an e.
Nice. So let me get that.
Yes,
So noodle, yeah, NoodleBox. Cool.
correct.
Thank you so much.
.io. I appreciate it. Thank you.